good news today, folks. I thought I'd just make a quick video about it because it's sterling news. We're all big fans of Dr. David Starkey on this channel, aren't we? Educated, sensible, reasonable, logical. You can see why he's roundly despised by the left, can't you? So anyway, GB News have been putting him back on the telly again. Fantastic to see. Please, I'll leave a link in the description. Go and like the video, show your support. David Starkey is a national fucking treasure and he should be on the TV a lot more. As for the conversation, totally reasonable, totally factual, totally logical.
To say the historian Dr. David Starkey was listening to that and joins me here in the studio. Thank you so much for coming in again.
Colin.
It's such a pleasure to see you.
Hello.
We appreciate it. Black History Month, a good idea.
A necessary idea. We have now a substantial black population. It's very important to get the perspective right. It's about 5%. They are in search of roots. They want a sense of belonging here. To do that, you need a history. But there is a great problem. You see, when history becomes propaganda, which effectively it has become, then I'm afraid you get rather bad history. And I hate to tell you, Colin, there was a great deal of bad history in your admirable summary. You called Mary Seacole a nurse.
Straight away, he's telling Colin he's shit the bed, isn't he? I know where he's going to go with this before I even watched it. Mary Seacole. There's statues of her. They call her the greatest British nurse. She wasn't a nurse. Basically, she ran the fucking naffy. She sold tabs to soldiers. It's hardly Dr. Quinn medicine woman shit, is it? But again, the reason it's such a good piece is because he's totally reasonable. He's not saying that it's weird that minority groups in Britain want to feel a sense of kinship and culture with the country. Of course they do. What he's saying is, you don't need to make shit up, do you? You don't need to lie. And if you didn't lie, it wouldn't antagonise the gen pop either, would it? Nobody minds that people want to feel at home and people want to feel a sense of belonging. They mind being blatantly lied to by what is supposed to be impartial and factual news organisations. All we ask is that you don't make dumb shit up. How hard is it?
She wasn't. You called Mary Seacole heroic. She wasn't. She was a really nice, generous soul. And you know what she went to the Crimea to do?
Not to nurse.
Not to nurse, not to set up a hospital, not to tend the wounded. She went to, and I'm reading from her own autobiography, which survives, she went to set up an hotel. And it was a hotel, obviously, not for ordinary soldiers. Ordinary soldiers didn't go to hotels. It was for officers, and she was there to make a profit, and she sold luxury items. And because she went out rather late in the war, and she bought a great many luxury items, which she hadn't sold by the time that the war ended, she went bankrupt.
So, she ran a corner shop, a bit like Open All Hours, except with a black woman, right? And she sold tabs to officers. And in the end, she went bankrupt, so she left. So she wasn't even a good shopkeeper. I mean, did she even put a plaster on? She didn't even rub Vicks Vapor Rub into anyone's bird's nest. She didn't do anything medical. She sold tabs. That's it. End of story. There's nothing even remotely interesting or heroic about it. What's heroic about it? She didn't sell tabs and then decapitate a warlord. She just sold tabs.
And yet we're presented with this woman as if she were Florence Nightingale.
Quite deliberately. It's a manufactured past. Now, this is really dangerous. And it's the great challenge to my colleagues in Black history, which is to be honest, is to produce a real, well-documented history. Now, there's a remarkable book by a woman called Miranda Kaufman, which is called The Black Tudors. Now, when you look at it, there's one thing that strikes you. About a third of the book is written in italic type. Why? Because it's fiction. We know so little about these people. The most famous black in Tudor England is, of course, called White. He's called John Blanc as a joke. He is Henry VIII's black trumpeter. He is the only black in Tudor England whose portrait we've got. We know nothing else about him apart from his daily wages. But an entire industry, you can see what I'm meaning. When you're in quest for roots, you invent. We used to invent, stories about King Arthur. This is a new equivalent of the Arthurian legends.
Is it right to call it propaganda?
Yes.
Again, everyone's made this point many times. Cleverer people than me have made this point. The UK was 99.99% ethnically British as late as 1950. In 1950, it was estimated there were no more than 20,000 non-white residents in the United Kingdom. 20,000 in 1950. There were not even 0.01% of the population. Now, you can tell some fascinating stories about the people that came over, the Windrush generation, but there was only 492 people on it. Now, every bastard Tom, Dick and Harry tells you he was from the Windrush. He'll rock up, you bump into a bloke in the middle of London in 2021 and he talks like the pirate of Captain Phillips. And he's telling you about the Windrush. It's like, no, mate, you're from Somalia and you rocked up in 2018. It's fucking laughable. You don't need to lie about it. Just tell us the history. There's lots of interesting stories to tell about the black community in Britain, particularly in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s when there was a mass migration, but you don't have to lie about it. You don't have to make Bridgerton and Sherlock Holmes and even that Winston Churchill movie where he's fucking sat on the train and all of a sudden a random Jamaican bloke rocks up and starts quoting Shakespeare or some shit. It's nonsense. Nobody's prejudiced or racist or have any problems with anybody, but the issue is we don't like being lied to because it's insulting. You think I'm a moron and I've never done even basic history class. It's offensive. Nobody says it because they're prejudiced. They says it because they don't like being talked down to by a fucking liar who thinks I've got the IQ of a chicken McNugget and I don't know when I'm being lied to by some middle-class arsehole with an Oxbridge education, a toffee nose and a head full of horse shit. You are insulting my intelligence. That's why it angers me. It's the only reason it angers me. Stop telling lies and usher in a pleasant future where everybody gets along with each other, regardless of ethnicity, and spend all day talking about how fucking stupid the people that work at the BBC and The Guardian are. I'll drink to that with my Caribbean and Indian friends. We'll all be pals, joined together by a mutual loathing for Owen fucking Jones. Thanks for listening. Check out the video and give Dr. Starkey a thumbs up. See you very soon. Cheers.